right, it's time to talk about 2019 31 Days of Horror film with The Little Stranger. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you some thoughts on The Little Stranger. So, this is a historical horror thriller. Yeah, this one's a tough one. Okay, so let's go through the status things. I forgot to take my tablet out of its case so you get to see what it looks like. Anyway, so The Little Stranger was directed by Lenny Abrahamson. It's based on the novel by Sarah Waters, and the cast includes well, I can never pronounce his name, Gleeson, Ruth Wilson, Will Poulter, and Charlotte Rampling. It came out in limited release in 2018, and I would say the subgenre is historical, thriller, creepy house-ish kinds of movie, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 or a 7 out of 10. So yeah, here we go. There's most of the cast there. Will Poulter didn't make the poster. That's not fair. I always remember him from the Narnia movies. He played Eustace. Anyway, so I was actually really looking forward to this. I ended up watching it on Netflix. It did come out, I think, in theatrical release here in Toronto, but last fall 2018, and but I missed it. And I toyed with the idea of reading the book first or not, but I never know with horror films, if that's a good idea, because so much is relying on the suspense and the story, and do you want to know, do you not want to know? And I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't read the book. I don't know how close it ended up being to the book, but part of what was intriguing about it was wondering what was going on. So if you're completely unfamiliar, I kept myself as unfamiliar as possible to this one, other than knowing it was by Sarah Waters. I actually haven't read anything by her before, I don't think. I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 90% sure. Anyway, so yeah, so it is. This one's hard to talk about. Just is hard to talk about. So we follow a doctor who sort of comes back to sort of where he grew up, and he didn't grow up in the wealthiest of families, but like his mom was either a maid or a cook to this grand house. And so now he comes back, he's a doctor, he has established himself, and this grand house is now in disrepair. The family is not doing well, and he reaches out to them, and so it's this weird power shift dynamic because, the power has 100% shifted. I actually did not, until I started talking about it, I didn't realize that totally happened. It's a total role reversal in terms of who has the power. Now, he is not like grandly, wealthy or anything like that, but he's stable, and he is capable being a doctor. And they actually, you know what? He doesn't reach out to them. They need a doctor, and he goes out. Is that oh my gosh. It has not been that long since I've seen the movie, and I'm already forgetting the details. Yeah, okay, that sort of says a lot about how I felt about the film. Unfortunately, I did not super, this was not anywhere near as good as I thought it was going to be. In terms of a period piece that's a bit creepy, it's pretty good on that front. In terms of a horror movie, I felt let down. I felt I wasn't super surprised, although it kept things mysterious. I wasn't super surprised. I've watched enough horror movies to notice some marks of like, oh yeah, this happened, and you think this is going to happen, but we didn't actually see this, and sort of that kind of stuff. So it felt pretty clear that it was, not exactly what was going on, but that something was going on. And it did have atmosphere, I will give it that. It wasn't always creepy. Most of the time it felt very somber or oppressive. And that, I think, is where it ended up being a film that I didn't enjoy super much, is because a lot of it is about this power dynamic, and the family, that was the sort of, doing well, isn't, and this doctor, he keeps on coming back to the house and starts to befriend the daughter, and then it just sort of like just a little more and just a little more and just a little more and I was like getting like, oh where are we going here? Where are we going here? And he seemed so mostly indifferent. And I was like, that's never good. That's never good. It's never good to be that indifferent. You know, you don't have to be like wildly enthusiastic or completely upbeat or downtrodden or whatever, but like when you cannot sense what someone's feeling like at all, I always feel like that's very uncomfortable. Like whether it's good or bad, not good, not emotions are good or bad, but that whether it's positive or like, you know, engaged versus indifferent. I find indifference it's such a horrible thing. And so, yeah, so it felt very uncomfortable. And it's supposed to have tension, like it is, you know, like that kind of movie. It's supposed to have tension, but it just wasn't, you know, I was like, who am I rooting for here? Who am I rooting for? Am I rooting for something? Maybe that's where it fell, is that I wasn't actually rooting for anyone. Because, like, the family, even though they're, you know, on hard times now, still didn't feel super like I was rooting for any of them, and then the doctor not feeling super like I was rooting for him. So I guess in a movie I need to root for someone or I don't feel invested, and that is sort of how I felt about the movie. Like I was curious as to where the story was going to go and how it was going to be resolved, and it had beautiful production design and the house was great and it certainly was creepy and all of those things, but I'm like, you know, I don't really care too much about any of the characters. So I was curious enough to keep watching it, but it's one of those ones that just sort of didn't really work for me, unfortunately. And so now I really don't know like whether it was a good choice or a bad choice to read the book. You know, maybe it was a good choice. I don't know. I guess I'll have to pick a different Sarah Waters book to read, because I don't think I would read this one afterwards, because it's either going to follow the story, which I didn't super love, or, you know, I'd just be noticing the differences. So sadly, wow, this felt very lackluster when I am now talking about it, which is really too bad, because it is a really, like, I don't always love or need a film to be historically set or a period piece, but I do like ones with sort of like, you know, creepy house or a mysterious setting or a creepy setting. Like those are all things that I'm drawn to, hence why I chose it. So anyway, maybe I think also with this one, when it didn't come out in the theater, I didn't hear much about it, so maybe that is some of the why. Let me know if you have seen it, if you enjoyed it, and you know, how you felt about it. Did you read the book first? Would you read the book now? I am really, like, for me, I do feel sad because I am quite a fan of several of the actors in this, including Charlotte Rampling is in this, and I'll watch anything she's in for. So even just for that, it was worth it, but overall wasn't one of the winners, and I really thought it would be. Like, I was super excited to see it, though it was on Netflix. I was like, yeah, and then I was like, kind of like, oh, so kind of somewhere in the middle there. Can't all be winners, although I'm sure a lot of people like this one, like it's just not, it just, you know, if the story went this way or instead of that way, if the character was a little more like this versus like that, who knows what it could have been to be that close, because it really was that close for you know, I kept on waiting, and then eventually I was kind of like, no. So I don't like to do, you know, to talk about movies that I don't enjoy as much, but, you know, when you're watching so many of them, sometimes they're going to end up being like this. So that's what ended up happening with The Little Stranger. And yeah, so let me know if you saw it and what your thoughts were, and I'll see you for the next one. Thanks for watching.